Sanibona, ngaphambi singene kwivideo namuhla, ngithi angithathe lethuba ngibonge isupport nothando nesikhombise lona lingaphezu kokucabanga kwethu. Siyacela niqhubeke nisupporte njalo ngokubuka amavideo ethu, ungakhohlwa ukukhomenta, ushare, ulike. Siyafisa ukuzwa umbono wakho. Sicela ke singene kwivideo namuhla. Earlier on sikhulume ngelawyer egwetshiwe ngenxa yokuthi yaklemela abantu imali e-road accident fund, imali yangena kwi-trust yakhe. Uma sekufuneka idlulisele kwi-client wangabe sakwenzelwa kunaloko wakhetha ukushintsha i-address, washintsha yonke into, wabaleka, zange satholakala. Bambophisa kamaphoyisa, amtracker down, amthola ugwetshiwe, uboshiwe wagwetshwa. Sekunzima kakhulu manje ukuthi akusekho lula ukuthi umuntu aziclaimele yena, sekufuneka uclaime through ama-lawyer. Engingena ku-TikTok ngasithela lapha kwivideo kaSongezo Zibi, chairperson weScope, kwi-standing committee on public account, ebhale le post lethi expecting poor people to spend up to 100,000 rand to lodge a RAF claim is cruel. Ngaba interested kakhulu-ke kulolu daba. Ngiyibukile-ke ivideo ngase ngibona ukuthi cha, angikulethele nawe uze ukuthi kwenzakalani futhi ube nolwazi lokuthi yini enzekayo, ikakhulukazi odabeni oluthinta iRAF, ukuthi uma ngase kwenzeke manje ube nenkinga yokuthola ingozi yemoto funa wenze njani. Le information le ikhona ngoba iyakhulunywa njalo eParliament. IParliament balibroadcaster live ngoba benzela ukuthi abantu base South Africa bazi ukuthi kwenzakalani. Khumbula ukuthi labantu abaseParliament bangama-lawmakers. Bengama-lawmakers barepresenta thina esibavotele. Noma kuthiwa-ke awusibavotelanga, kodwa ngenxa yokuthi sebeseParliament yibona bathatha iy'nqumo. Noma isiphi isinqumo abazosithatha, ubavotele noma ubavotelanga, uma sebevumelene basivotela saphasa, kuzofuneka sonke sisilandele. Ngakho-ke ingakho ngifisa namhlanje sike silalele nje lo daba le-road accident fund. Yazi kama-meeting weScope athatha about 9-11 hours. Angeke sikwafake kodwa sithatha nje ama-video ambalwa. Ngiyacaba mhlawumbe ayi-2 noma ayi-3. Asiqale la.
What are the values of the road accident fund, Ms. Manyash?
It's integrity, it is compassion, it is accountability, it is respect, it is empathy. The last one is empathy, excellence.
Well done. In my experience, employees of companies usually don't remember the values when challenged to say them. What do you understand about compassion?
Chair, I must say, when we crafted these values, we really thought about them. And if you can see, at first it was just I care. And I think a year ago, we added the second E, which is empathy. Because the discussion that we were having at EXCO is that what we are seeing in our system, Chair...
No, I'm just asking, yeah, what's your personal understanding of what compassion is?
Compassion, Chair, means having deep care, if I can put it, deep care for the person that you are dealing with. And that's why I want to explain, Chair, that these I care values that we came up with really took into consideration the claimant. They are for the claimant and not for us, because we thought the claimant, really we understand the pain of the claimant where we are sitting, and that's why this I care squared, and the last E was for the empathy.
Don't try and work out where I'm going. What do you understand about what empathy is?
Empathy, Chair, is putting yourself in the shoes of the other person and understanding their pain deeply.
Can you put yourself in the shoes of Honorable Beasley's mother?
Definitely, Chair.
If Honorable Beasley's mother needs up to 100,000 rand to even be considered, would you say that's compassionate and empathetic? And Honorable Beasley's mother has 2 broken legs, comes from a village, and doesn't know what an actuary is. Is it your contention that the way you guys are doing things and designing this system, that all of us want it to work, it's compassionate and is empathetic to the most vulnerable members of society?
In that aspect, Chair, it is not. And we can admit that it is not. It is not considerate.
Thank you. We can adjourn.
Nzima kakhulu uma ngabe ukuze uclaim kufuneka uspende up to 100,000 rand. Kusho ukuthi baningi abantu angeke baze baclaim. Ngale nje kokubambelela ngizokucaphunela lama video uzwele wena, mina ngizophawula egcineni. Asiqhubeke.
Honorable Plosa has made a plea to go first, and I've allowed it. So I'll come after it.
Are you chairing now? But it's okay. Since he's our old colleague, it's fine.
No, it was a mutual agreement, Chair. It doesn't need a lawyer. We've settled amongst ourselves. No, greetings, colleagues. So I've requested you just to go first so that I can step out for some other engagement. Greetings, colleagues. Are you well? Are you well? Yeah. No, it will be okay. Look, Mr. Modiba, yesterday I asked you a question to say, is there anything that the Road Accident Fund has tried to do to try and reform the entity and to make it better? And you guys have actually received support for. And without paraphrasing you, but your response to me was no. And it's coming across again today, for me. Now, I'm failing to understand that I see a very difficult position for the Road Accident Fund. I don't know whether you guys need to be compliant with the law or you don't need to be compliant with the law. When you guys are appealing cases in court because you believe strongly that you've got a point, we accuse you of wasting money on lawyers. We deem those issues to be illegal, as if it's not the Constitution that allows appeals. It's allowed by the law. If you guys were not allowed to appeal in the Supreme Court of Appeal, to appeal to the Constitutional Court, it's lawful. Why are we creating an impression that it's unlawful to appeal a case that we have lost? If the RAF 1 form is in contention and you guys are in court, PwC is saying that their understanding as well is that this RAF 1 form is legal in its standing currently up until it's set aside by a court of law. No matter how many cases you've lost, but if there's still grounds to appeal, it still stands. So I just want to say that for me, again, I'm struggling really. And I'm not in any way saying that, I keep making this point, that I'm not saying things are lovely-dovely at the Road Accident Fund. But everything that comes across, it just seems as if you guys are just doing bad in that institution. There's nothing right that is going on there. And I don't believe that is a correct analysis. I truly don't. Now, I'm a member of the EFF, colleagues. And I think I can speak with authority in terms of representation of black people and the marginalized and the poor. But law always have unintended consequences. We've got children, my hometown is in Nkandla, that's where I come from. We have people there who give birth at home without having access to medical care. And the unintended consequences of the collapse of the system for medical care is that those children then struggle to get IDs or birth certificates because they've been born in an era that is not recognized. By the time they try to register that child, there are no documents, there are no medical reports, there's nothing. And the unintended consequences of that is that children then don't get access to social services, can't get child grants, they can't get NSFAS. Now, when that person who is non-compliant because they don't have a birth certificate we can't blame social services for not giving the child grant and say that social services or whichever department is responsible to give a child grant is non-compassionate because they are not giving this black child social grant because she doesn't have a birth certificate. Home Affairs must find a way to deal with that. So my understanding of the RAF 1 form, now that's where I'm coming, I need you, Ms. Manyasha, and Ms. Potgieter to come to this. My understanding of the RAF 1 form was that it was trying to mitigate against, what did you call it, Mr. Modiba, yesterday? You called it the unidentified claims, fraudulent claims.
Yes, yes.
Whereby if people are able to register claims without the relevant documentation, it opens up RAF to a possibility whereby RAF becomes liable to a claim that is non-compliant, that doesn't have documents, that has a blank file, but you still need to pay for that form anyway. And I think that's what the RAF 1 form is trying to achieve. Obviously, there will be unintended consequence to that, but to then want to vilify this form as if it's the most illegal thing that has happened in history, I don't think that is correct. I think the battle here is the cry for these lawyers who are unable to access these funds now because of this RAF 1 form. Because now, even with PwC coming with this system, it means you can't enter a system without the relevant documentation. There can't be duplicates. So who are losing out are the people who are exploiting the system. What's the actual intention of this RAF 1 form? Can you just clarify that for me?
I'll start with my comments, Honorable Blosser. When we looked at the RAF 1 form, as Mr. Modiba and other colleagues have explained, it was for us to be able to collect information that is helpful for us to be able to process a claim and finalize it, with the aim of complying to the law of processing and finalizing a claims within 120 days. If we receive a form that does not have all the relevant information, it will sit in our system for more than 120 days, 5 years, up until, there's claims that are sitting with us for more than 5 years. And what we are referring to as the previous project that the RAF did at the time, it was the previous management that decided to go that route. And they went out to communities, educated the communities and said, if you've ever been in an accident, bring us a form. And there would be communities, people in the community that would say, Mr. Blosser, I was in an accident, and then you were not, but come, let's fill in a form. So we would have a lot of fraudulent forms in our system. And that's why we are sitting with the backlog that we are sitting with. So the RAF 1 form was to assist us. And I think maybe my colleagues should maybe assist in terms of the percentage of people that actually come directly to claim with the RAF and the percentage of people that claim via lawyers. Some of these documents that we are missing are from law firms and not necessarily from individuals. So the law firms have the ability to assist people to bring all those documents, but they still choose to bring documents that are incomplete, which is causing a problem for us. And once they do that, then they attract legal fees, because once the 120 days passes, then we start accumulating legal fees. I think there's a conversation, I'm not sure if it was here or it was in the portfolio committee, where we raised the fact that the RAF Act is cruel, especially to the poor, because the RAF Act actually does not give the poor the opportunity and the easy access that it should give them. So this act, and that's why we were proposing what we were proposing in terms of that, and I'm happy that we are allowed to also put those inputs into the upcoming RAPS bill. But the RAF Act, if you look at it, was not meant to help the poor. And that is the problem. And our plea, I think, that's why I'm saying, I'm not sure if it was in the portfolio committee or here. We need Parliament to please assist us so that we can reform the legislation to allow people to come directly. And I remember someone made an example to say, as I'm sitting here, if a family member of mine is in an accident, I can't help them because of the money that we're talking about in certain instances. We need to be able to simplify this thing to make it as simple as possible that any person sitting wherever they are sitting will be able to do this. And that is what Custom Engage is also going to do. We're going to go out as soon as we finalize with this system to make sure that we engage people, we educate people, we do videos to show people how to go about claiming in this system. However, the legislation really needs to assist us. Thank you.
It's an act that is not pro poor, but it needs to be beneficiary to those who are poor, and that's a problem with the road accident fund in its current form. That it's designed to benefit those who've got means, and when you try to reform that, because now you are taking away money from people who've got money, then you are fault for that. Because even this issue of quantum, I don't understand that. Why would an entity of government have an approach that it should benefit more a person who's already got money than a person who doesn't? Because it means me now sitting here, if I were to get in an accident and break my leg is more expensive because I've got a pay slip than a friend of mine from Kandla who is sitting at home. So it's not a system for the poor. So when we are fighting not to transform or to reform RAF, we are not fighting for the poor. In majority, which is our people, our black people. So that's why I'm saying that from time to time, we need to clear the storm. Ms. Potikri, there is something you were, there's something you were reading for us. Can you just read that again and just tell me what is it that you are trying to express?
So it's in the RAF regulations, Regulation 6.3. The fund or an agent may, at its cost, at the written request of the third party, then this third party being the claimant or its representative, I suppose, pay directly to the medical practitioner or hospital concerned the reasonable necessary costs associated with the completion of the medical report contemplated in section 24(2)(a) of the Act, if the fund decides that the third party lacks sufficient funds to obtain the medical report and the fund foresees a reasonable prospect that the third party could succeed with the merits of the claim.
Okay, so it's the RAF Act that envisions that claimants must be able to provide these documents and pay for them themselves or through their lawyers.
It does, but then it makes provision for the fact that if you lack sufficient financial means to pay for these, you can approach the RAF in a written correspondence to request for these to be paid on their behalf.
And then you guys will make the determination at that point and then try to assist. Okay, no, that's fine. I'm really against the involvement of lawyers in this whole thing. And we need to find a way to get rid of lawyers at RAF. I don't know how, because, again, the way RAF is structured is that it deals with litigations. I've got a case I'm sitting with a case, and I've submitted some of these cases whereby, you'll know you guys, we are on a campaign as the EFF, to say people who have been affected by RAF, they must come to us. I'm sitting I don't know why people are laughing when I'm talking, Chair.
Atkinson, the member has the floor, so let's not interrupt.
Yeah, it's very disrespectful. Because we can return the favor. They are still laughing.
Colleagues, please, can we just manage ourselves, please?
So, I've got a case of a young girl who's from Limpopo. Her name is Tato. This is Tato Masetsebe. She's from Limpopo. She got in an accident. She used lawyers. The claim was successful and paid to the lawyers. And the lawyers came back to her because she was young at the time. She was 14. The lawyer said that they've been ordered by the court to open a trust account for her, and she cannot have access to the money until she's 21. She's 22 now. She still haven't received the money. The lawyers have gone AWOL. It's being suspected that they've even closed the law firm. She doesn't know how much was paid. She just knows that the money was paid because the lawyers confirmed to her and her mother. And they made a claim that she cannot have access to this money until she's 21. Do you guys have a comment on that? Or how can we assist them?
I mean, I think these are obviously...
Sorry, Chair.
Yes, Honorable Maduna.
Chair, in the interest of time, is it possible that we provide Honorable Bloss with transcript of the meeting when we met either the LPC or the LPP, the other ones? Is it possible?
I think also allow Honorable Blosser to complete his point, Honorable Maduna, and then we'll make the yeah. Can you please
what gives him the impression that I wasn't watching?
No. I'm protecting you, Honorable Blosser. Honorable Maduna, allow Honorable Blosser to complete his point without interruption.
Yeah, people must not point.
To your point about time, Honorable Blosser, please complete.
No, but why is he even complaining about my time? In interest of whose time? It's my time. You are timing me. So in interest of whose time?
Okay, Honorable Blosser, I'm with you.
Yeah.
This is why I'm asking him to stand down on this.
Yeah, in the interest of what time?
Okay, please continue, Honorable Member.
Yeah, so I mean, if they are interested at least in the detail of the value that has been paid out, they can certainly phone the call center, and the call center should be able to provide them with that level of detail. But I would also suggest that they go to the LPC and lay a formal complaint in terms of this particular lawyer. Certainly, once they have been given the evidence that when was the claim paid and the value of the claim, then they must go to the LPC and lay a formal complaint with the LPC against this lawyer.
Yeah, I think we have submitted a lot of these cases. And part of the problem with the LPC itself is that some of these lawyers, when they get access to these monies, it's either they change law companies, they change everything else. So there's a whole lot of problem even there, even with the LPC itself. That's why I'm saying we don't deal with things just on a textbook. We are practically on the ground dealing with this. I'm receiving cases directly on a daily basis on issues of RAF, and we've been submitting to you guys some of these cases, and some of them we've not received responses. So that's why I'm dealing with this specific case. So I don't know why other members are just jumping up and down here when I'm the one on the floor. Now, PwC, this then links to the question of the engage, right? To say that, yes, there's the call center, but sometimes there are also some difficulties there in terms of our people then getting access to this thing. So I want you to talk to me about the engage, customer engage that you call it, to say when can we expect that to be up and running, and how is that going to assist in this particular case that I'm giving reference to, because I want to know that the claims that have already been paid, leave the ones that might be in process on their way, but what about the claims that have already been paid that we might want to check, because there are a lot of people who are saying, I don't know what happened with my claim. You find that the lawyers have been, because some of the lawyers, what they do, when they get a claim, they become as if they are saviors of these people. They say, no, listen, I'll give you 10,000 rand every month up until your claim is paid. Khana, he's already gotten 1 million. He pays 10,000 to this person for 12 months. After that, it disappears. So, and again, it is the law that is a hindrance, because the law says that the law firm must open a trust account on behalf of the claimant, and the claimant never knows whether this thing is done or not. So how can customer engage assist our people, and when can we expect it to be live?
Thank you, Honourable Member, through you, Chair. So first of all, in terms of the when we can expect it, that I will have to defer to the RAF, because it is in their hands as to when they will go live with Customer Engage. In terms of the functionality of it, for all claims that are in ICMS as of the go live date, so as long as it's being captured and processed within ICMS, once Customer Engage goes live, you will be able to see the full history and status of a claim. So then it would be easier for claimants to be able to understand exactly what's been paid.
So the cases that would have been there before you guys took place, we won't be able to because there won't be no data for that.
That's exactly right.
Okay, no, that's fine. Maybe just as a final point to the guys at Road Accident Fund, for me, I think we need to have a different conversation, which is correct to say then those people who might be disadvantaged because of the RAF 1 form, the new RAF 1 form, what then becomes the mitigating factor? But not for us to be seen as if we are fighting for the Road Accident Fund to process uncompliant claims. I don't think that's the conversation should be, whereby we are saying, no, this person doesn't have an ID, this person doesn't have these documents, therefore process them. What we should be saying, especially as lawmakers, is to say, we see the effort, we see what you are trying to do, but listen, there might be loopholes here. There are our people who might be disadvantaged because of this thing. What then becomes the mitigating factor for that? But not that we seem as if we are pushing back to say, drop this RAF 1 form, it's illegal, it's unconstitutional, there are people who are being disadvantaged, whereas we are not even fighting for those people. We're not even speaking for the people who are being disadvantaged about this thing. What we are fighting for here is the lawyers who are failing to loot the system anymore. So for me, I'm saying the conversation should be different. To say, how then do we capacitate RAF, or what then becomes the possible solutions to these challenges that you might be facing with this RAF 1 form. But to say that it is unconstitutional and unlawful to fight in the courts for anything, I don't agree with those sentiments. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Blosser. Do you colleagues want to comment? I understood that to be a comment by the Honorable Member, but I'm giving you an opportunity. Are you taking up that opportunity? Okay, I saw a thumbs up. Honorable Madlala.
Thank you, Chair. And greetings to the delegation, to the honorable members, and to the public more especially. I want to start by a comment. I will try not to make it too long because I've got limited time. To say that the last national elections presented a new dynamic and an opportunity to this country, an opportunity to turn things around. So we are taking a very sharp turn to the left. And it's strictly to the left because we need to prioritize our people. We are vehemently opposed to big corporates looting funds from state coffers. At the center of our operation should be the people at home, the marginalized, unemployed people who are mostly occupying the stairs of RAF as claimants. And some of us are not really excited by a rhetoric of transformation because we at least understand from a political conscious point of view what transformation means. And it must be live, it must be experienced. So a suggestion that we are transforming a system while depriving our people access and subjecting them to big corporate law firms who can afford to pay for their medicals at 100,000 and be able to be paid by RAF in the next 300 years, because also RAF takes forever to pay these law firms. Because a small law firm cannot technically afford to even pay for those medicals and claim and get the money in time from RAF. Does not seem to suggest a picture of an institution being transformed. If anything, transformation should mean easy direct access for the claimants and an elimination of a middleman who takes exorbitant funds from the money that is supposed to go to the claimant. And if we wanted to be more technical, we'd also comment on your contracted PwC in terms of their outlook, in terms of even delegation here, in terms of transformation, if we wanted to go that route. But we have limited time to deal with that. Now, I want to first ask the question on the feasibility study. You've got a project that seems to be having hiccups. I want to know if there was a feasibility study done to ascertain the possible cost escalations, the possible required interventions in terms of data integration, and all the other issues that we seem to see today, if that was done before the commencement of the project, so that we can be able to say what is the possibility of its success and what amounts is going to be required, what interventions and what other projects within it are going to be required to be put in place to ensure that it is successful. I just want to check if that kind of a feasibility study was conducted at the beginning before the implementation. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Madlala. Yes, there was a benchmarking study that was conducted early 2020 with institutions that are doing similar work, both locally and internationally. One of the organizations we benchmarked with is Discovery Health and the Compensation Fund to see what systems they are using.
Sorry to interrupt you. Maybe you're still coming there, but I'm trying to be economic about my own time. Not a benchmarking study, feasibility. You know, before you start a project, you sit down, you look at the complexities, the micro and the macro environmental factors, the likely cost escalation, because we know that the price of rent today will not be the same as in 3 years or 5 years' time. So we must project for cost escalations, make a budget and be able to say between this financial year and that one, these are the possible cost escalations. There's going to be data migration that's going to be needed. What kind of team and plan do we need to put in place? Do we have the capacity to do that? And all of those kinds of nitty-gritties that you deal with when you are making an assessment of whether we're even ready to get into the project and start implementing it. That is the kind of a study I'm asking about.
To my knowledge, Honorable Madlala, that was included in the benchmarking study that I'm talking about, the feasibility of this project being conducted and being finalized with what resources. So all those aspects that you're talking about were looked into.
Thank you. Was it able to pick up some of the issues we're seeing now in the report as impediments or as causing delays, and what were the mitigating strategies that were then deployed as part of an intervention to resolve them, so that we can see if they are being implemented now or if for some reason we are not able to then put them into effect, but we had already planned for them at a strategic management level, a point of view?
Yes, the possible challenges were picked up at the time and were planned for. For example, the challenge that PwC spoke about of adoption is one of the things that were picked up, and plans were made to mitigate those.
Then why are we having a delay now? If they were planned for, picked up, projected for, and interventions, deduced into writing in terms of how they're going to be mitigated, why are we having a delay today?
Honorable Madlala, projects will have challenges, and the people that we were benchmarking with obviously gave us tips in terms of how to deal with them. However, the mitigation plans, they do work to a certain extent, and we continue to make sure that we improve if something is not working. However, it's not something that came as a shock that we are having this adoption problem. However, and that's why at the beginning, change management processes and a change management strategy was developed to make sure that we deal with that problem.
All right, I'm going to proceed with my line of questioning, but this is what I want to say as well, Ms. Manyasha, and I think to some degree, you are one of the people who have tried to help us because you were honest about certain admissions. Some of us were even, we had a heated discussion in the committee about the necessity of investing so much of weeks and time on RAF. We know there are many issues, water issues, there are many crisis issues in the country. But we only came to an agreement that it is necessary because we said this is going to be our benchmarking exercise. This is what we are going to use to ensure that we generalize across the state-owned entities in terms of governance systems, financial control systems, and legislative reviews, and all of those kinds of sorts. So we're not only dealing with RAF here. So for executives, what helps us is when they are honest. And when they are not honest, they deprive us and the entire nation of an opportunity to turn around all these SOEs, which are all dysfunctional. And when we're saying that dysfunctional, I'm not saying you are incompetent. So at your level, you should understand the emotional intelligence of separating yourself from the entity and understanding that there are systematic issues which may be even above yourself. So what I need you to be honest about is whether those projected issues and interventions deployed were adequate or they were inadequate. And I need your honest answer on that, then I'll move from it. Because if you are saying that we had foreseen these kind of challenges as likely to be coming up, and we had deployed the necessary adequate interventions to mitigate for when the time arises, then we shouldn't be having a delay. So I want, and it's for everyone who may answer, for us not to try to be smart about it, to just be honest and say, we did not see this part, or we saw it, but we thought that the intervention we'll put would be adequate. We came to realize that it was not properly planned for, or whatever the case is. You may respond, and then I'll move on from this. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Madlala, and thank you for that comment. We do put mitigations in place, but as we move along the project, as a big project that many people in the RAF have not been involved in, we must admit some of the mitigation that we put are not adequate. For example, the resourcing of the project itself, and especially from the technical side, the ICT side, was not adequate as we would have expected it to be, as a project leader, I would have wanted it to be. Secondly, the adoption part, as much as we've put change management strategies in place, we did not foresee the resistance at the level at which it came. Because, I mean, it's a big organization, it's a big project. People are used to be doing things in a certain way for many years. And, you know, especially a technology project, some of us are born before technology. We still prefer those boxes and papers that are sitting in front of us. So those were identified. However, I think our mitigating factors, our mitigations were not adequate. As you said, let's be honest about it. Mitigations were not adequate in terms of resourcing. For example, that's the first thing that I'm much aggrieved about. The resourcing was not adequate for the project.
Thank you. Moving on to the next set of questions. Some of the project objectives spoke to reducing legal costs, ensuring that timeous payment within the set days, and promoting direct claims. In terms of your own assessment, have we achieved any of those project objectives? And this given the information that has been presented to this committee about the cost per claim and its escalation over the years, are we now able to pay in time for particularly where there are submissions? Because there's a huge allegation that even where documents are fully submitted, the payments are still not made in time. And this brings me to one of the slide, which is slide 17, which speaks about 711 claims in ready. Okay, I think the English, I don't know how it's written here. 711 claims ready for payment awaiting approval. 236 claims in aging, ready for payment but not yet due. In the context of that slide, are we paying on time where documents are all now fully submitted? Let me not go into the promotion of direct claims, which is in contradiction with what the RAP forms actually does. Can you answer that? Thank you.
Okay, let me take that one, Honorable Majala. So where we do have everything complete, from a process perspective, we are, hitting our targets. But I think what we probably do want to say, our PwC colleagues mentioned it a little bit earlier, that we did have a bit of a hiccup in terms of the integration, one of the integrations with SAP. So that did create a bit of a backlog in terms of the payment side from a claims perspective. However, the solution does work, it does pay, so we're just now pushing that backlog to make sure that those payments, we can clear them out.
And the legal costs, have we reduced them? The legal cost per claim, that was part of the objectives, I think, of the system.
Legal cost per claims, not yet. We are unable to measure that yet. I think that measurement we will then start to track once we bring online the litigation component of the solution.
Statistically, if we are saying that we do make payments where all documents are in, and saying this under oath, what would we say out of 10? So when full documents are submitted, in any case you don't accept a claim if there's no full documents. So where full documents are submitted, how many out of 10 do you pay within the 120 days? An average, you estimate 7, 9, 6, 5.
In the last, I'd say in the last probably 6 to 7 months, I'd say we're probably sitting at about 4 because of that SAP integration, issue I spoke about.
All right, I may run out of time soon, so let me move on to the next question. I want to, let me ask a quick question. How effective is the RAF call center? I've heard that there's no response. People, when they are calling, when they're writing emails, they've got challenges. We're now adding a systematic component, which I think if someone has got a problem in the system, they need to call somewhere. Will it be the same call center that's going to be called to provide technical support? If someone cannot, and are we capacitating it in terms of both the skills and training for the system, but as well as the effectiveness? And you can say it if people are lying, if they are saying that. So if I can take my number now and dial it, it would be picked up by someone who's going to ensure that they address the concern that I raise. How effective is it in line of both its substantive duties, but also the future, extended responsibilities?
Okay. Honorable Madlala, thanks for that question. The fortunate part about having a contact center is that you've got matrix that you can rely on to assess yourself, both inbound and outbound. Our average handling time for inbound is 4 minutes and 25 seconds. For outbound, it's about 2 minutes and 35 seconds, there and about. In terms of its effectiveness, I can tell you now that each time the claimant calls us, we're able to assist them. Our first contact resolution rate is sitting at 97%. So in terms of the pure numbers, which they say numbers don't lie, and it's true. That's where we are. What we also do as well, Honorable Madlala, is to make sure that we constantly are making sure that our agents are effective to the extent that almost every day there are coaching sessions, so that we're able to offer the right level of service to our claimants. And something that we're not used to, which we're getting, by the way, are compliments. Okay. Which is a bit strange, but nevertheless, we're not used to that, but we'll take it.
Yeah, thank you. You've supported your answer with some statistical fact. We'd like to have those, Chair, so that when people are trying to make a claim, we can defend you. Because we're not here to attack. We can say, no, RAF is doing exceptionally well when it comes to their call center. We'd like to have those on record.
Can I also have stopped your clock, Honorable Madlala, even though you're in injury time, but I've stopped it anyway. So can you also assist us with the following, some historical volume, historical information as well. So call volume handled, and also, so you said, so you've got your average waiting time, right? You've got all of those things?
Yeah. I've got a very comprehensive report which covers
average waiting time, calls dropped.
Yes.
And also matters close. I mean the closure of the matter. Would the resolution rate. Resolution rate. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. On injury time. Yeah. So the next questions will go. are going to be close-ended. One, in terms of the backlog, have you guys considered a tracing company? Finding a tracing company? Those companies exist, and I think that there will be cases logged with you, so you'll have an ID. Those companies have got agents who even go to the ground and try to find people. Before you cut off, have you considered such interventions?
Through you, Chair, the answer is yes. Honorable Madlan, as I'm speaking to you, we are busy trying to onboard a company that could assist us to trace where those claimants are. What we know is that the TransUnion as it stands is very limited in capacity. So there is a solution out there in the market. I'm not going to mention the name, but quite comprehensive, and we're comfortable that it will assist us to trace those claimants, because you don't want to close a claim until you have spoken to a person who lost it in the first place.
No problem. As long as you're saying that you're doing it, because I'm aware that there's quite a number of companies that do that tracing job. But if you're saying that you are doing it, we'll follow it up on some other time. I was just concerned because there seemed to be a feeling that we're not moving anywhere, and we may end up having to cut without having reached the people. But thank you for that response. Second, last question speaks to the... no, let me just make it the last question. The comment you made, Mr. Potgieter, about a provision in the Act for a claimant to request for payment from RAF. I heard you correct. Is that so?
It's a request for RAF to pay for the medical or to the medical practitioner or the hospital that is required to provide the medical report for the purposes of submitting a claim.
Right. That is currently applicable.
It's in the regulation, yes, it's in the current regulation.
Is it applicable under the RAF 1 form? Because this is the context within which I understand the RAF 1 form, is that you may incur expenses of someone's claim that may not even be considered. Because you speak about someone here whose claim has not been accepted by RAF, who wants payment for a medical report.
Yeah.
So the RAF 1 form wants you to submit the full documentation for it to be even accepted and processed and all of that. So is that not in contradiction? I just that clarity, and that will be the last question, Chair. Thank you.
No, this would have to be prior to the submission of the RAF 1 form, but it does, however, say that the fund should foresee a reasonable prospect that the third party could succeed with the merits of the claim. And it also states further that the request does not interrupt prescription. So I think this would be a process that is initiated prior to the submission of the form and the registration of the claim.
Definitely, we share the same understanding. My only question is, how will then the fund arrive at that when it does not accept anything unless it's complete? Because you are saying the fund must make a reasonable assessment of the probability that this claim may go through. How would it do that? Because it does not accept any documents before, because you need documents to be able to arrive at that conclusion. Logically, I would think that is the case. But the fund does not take anything. It wants a bulk of everything combined. Part of that bulk include documents that the provision says someone may request the fund to pay for. But for the fund to pay for that, the fund must make an assessment of whether there is a probability of getting that. That is why I'm saying, is there no contradiction between how the RAF 1 form is applied and that particular provision? That is definitely the last question. Thank you.
Ms. Potgieter, you look like you wanted to address something. I don't want to deny you the opportunity.
No, it's fine, Chair. I take the point.
I am interested, though, in because you know, notwithstanding any passions that get inflamed here during our interactions, we still want to get to a solution. This question is actually important. I think it deserves a comment from the Road Accident Fund. It really does.
Chair, so it does say that it must be made in writing. It doesn't necessarily stipulate the form, or at least the template in which it needs to be submitted on. So that it must be a written request, and then we being the fund, must make a determination in terms of the request from 60 days from the date on which the written request was sent by registered post or delivered to the fund. So I don't think it requires the submission of the form. I suppose the details that would be contained in the written request would certainly have to be related to the, I suppose, accident report, which is one, certainly for the purposes of merits determination. And then secondly, it would obviously have to provide a bit of detail in terms of why the third party is believed to lack sufficient funds. Those would be my submissions, Chair, but I don't think it requires the entire submission of the RAF1 form. It doesn't say so.
Okay, no, thank you very much. We're going to break for lunch, but I don't want us to come back to this topic again. I want us to just address it. Okay, so somebody attempts to submit a claim. They need all manner of things. Funeral, they might have some pain, and so they need medical assistance or whatever the case might be, right? So I need someone to now walk us through the experience of the claimant so that we can get a proper answer for Honorable Madlala, which is very important. So I've got the basics, the ID and all of these kind of things. So let's not hang too much on that example as a problem. Most people have IDs. You've got your IDs, you've got everything, right? By everything is by way of basic information. You might not have your pay slip and this kind of thing because you do a piece job, so you don't actually get a pay slip, etc. What is that person told? They are non-compliant substantively in terms of the procedure right now. What are they told? Does anyone know? I mean, Mr. Mkabela, you work with the call center, so I would imagine that your people can answer any question that they get. So what is that person told?
Or maybe before that, Chair, if I may, we've just finalized a process through which you're trying to capture the real experience of a claimant.
No, sure. But let's talk about let's talk about 5 months ago.
Okay.
Yes.
What we are doing is through our agents to convey the message in a manner that assists the claimant. Not just a code, not just a language, and not just a piece of paper that is given to a claimant to say you are not compliant. Also a commitment from our side to say, should you provide these documents by week 2, week 3, it will assist us to settle the claim. That is the manner in which we approach this, but we appreciate that it's not as easy as it could be, because you're dealing with someone here who needs that support and who wishes for the process to be concluded as speedily as possible.
Okay, so what is that term again? You assisted me. Maximum medical what? Your maximum recovery. What is it called? Maximum medical improvement, which is we know you will not be able to recover any more than you have, right? Is that report required at the beginning? It is. How long on the medical recovery journey? Let's take somebody, leg broken in 3 places, crushed arm, crushed clavicle, and so on, right? Badly injured. They want to lodge a claim with the Road Accident Fund. Can that determination be made after a month? No, I need somebody to answer on the microphone.
No, Chair, I'm not a medical doctor, but I wouldn't say so, no.
Okay, but that report is needed, right?
Correct.
Am I correct to say the manner in which this is applied forces the most seriously injured person to wait until that determination can be made? Is it true?
Yes, Chair. I believe so, yes.
Okay, I want to make sure we get no contradiction here, because if that is required at the
I'm not a
beginning, it
medical
means you must go through ICU, you come back to critical care, you go onto a general ward, you go on to rehabilitation and so on, and then only at that point can you submit a claim with all the documents that comply, right? That's a system that you guys have designed. Is that so? If that is not so, I need to know on behalf of the committee and the public how that is then interrupted earlier on. Yes, sir.
I'm going to give it a shot, Chair. I am not very close to it as well, but what I have observed is you will walk in, you don't have everything you need. If you require medical attention at that point in time, then first point of contact, the guys would want to try and establish if they can, once they have proven that yes, it was, you know, you were involved in an accident, is to try and get you an undertaking. This undertaking will make sure that it facilitates your rehabilitation up until a point where, what's that term we were talking about? MMI can be reached. Then upon, you know, reaching that MMI process, then your claim is able to then to be progressed further.
Do you need a link number to access those undertakings? So I need to be certain that this is what you do, right? No speculation. When you've attempted to submit, you don't have everything, but you're complaining of headaches and dizzy spells and all of these things, but your documents are not complete. Do you get a link number?
No, that one, Chair, I don't think you do. But I think if you go through the process that Mrs. Potgieter was referring to, because you have, you know, you would have
I do expect you to know, as the guy who works with this system that has brought us here today, it can't be you, not of everybody in this room. You are the one guy who is supposed to know. Does the claimant get a link number? Because I believe the link number is the holy grail that gives you access to a whole bunch of things, including the tracking of your claim where it is. Do you get a link number? If a person, and the guys from PwC can tell us, if your claim is rejected, do you get a link number?
No, you don't get a link number, Chair.
So what do you
your
get?
claim is rejected.
What do you get?
What you get when your claim is rejected, you get an objection letter.
Right. So you're telling us that on the basis of an objection letter and no link number, which is the digital fingerprint that identifies this person as falling within that definition, you guys give people access to medical treatment and that kind of thing. Is that your statement?
No, Chair. What I am saying is that you come in, you bring in, you get objected. Once you've been objected, you then go through that regulation or that dispensation that exists in terms of the Act to say, I'm unable to provide you with further information. Right? Me being unable to provide you with further information, I need assistance to be able to get that medical report, be able to do this and that and that. Then the fund assesses that, gives you a response in terms of being able to give you that assistance so that you are able to then get those documents and then progress your claim forward.
Thank you. I think you've answered me. So here is the answer that you're giving me in substance. Until the person's maximum medical recovery, I keep calling it recovery, okay, has been determined, you offer no other assistance to them. You can't. You can't. You've rejected the claim. You've just given them a rejection letter. The person is suffering from dizzy spells, broken leg, pains, and so on. You offer them nothing. That's the effect. Because if you need all the documents, the reason I was asking about this MMI at the beginning is because it takes time. The more seriously injured you are, the longer it takes to be able to produce that document, because you are in treatment and rehabilitation for an extended period of time. You can't get it after a month from ICU. You can't even file a claim successfully. You can't even sign for it. Your ID might have even been lost in the accident. These are the realities of being in an accident, right? So what you guys are telling us is that you don't offer any assistance at that stage until every scrap of paper that is available is there on file. And unless every scrap of paper is available, including being able to get another ID because you are so broken up, you don't know where your wallet is. That's what you guys are telling us. We don't need to belabor this point any further. And I just want to say again, to the extent that in this whole process there are wild conspiracy theories, where I come from, and my understanding of compassion and empathy and the constitutional right to access, you guys are failing. Thank you. We can break for lunch. We'll be back at 2:30.
Beyinde kakhulu le video. Bengicaphunela nje ngikukhela phezulu kwi-video ye 9 hours. Kodwa uzizwe izinto ezibalekile nezikhulunywa lapha. Asibambe le video, ngicela ukuze ukuphawula kwakho. Uma ngase ngithola elinye ithuba, ngizophinde ngicaphunela amanye. Nawe asidibane kwi-video elandelayo. Ngiyabonga kakhulu.